So first off, different look to the video probably. I'm not filming on my phone, which good thing for me. I'm filming on a camera that I got in like 2011, 2012, so heads up if the quality's not that great, that's why it's an old camera. Also, hopefully, I'm hoping, I haven't edited this, obviously you can see there's not KineMaster in the corner. I got better editing software. Hopefully, again, haven't edited this yet. It's going to look really stupid if it does say KineMaster in the corner, but we'll see. So, anyway, obviously going to do reading wrap up for September. Woo! I read 11 books in September, which is more than last month. I am officially out of my summer slump. If you watched the last reading wrap up video, which if you haven't, understand, it was 35 minutes. That's a long for a reading wrap up, but it was 3 months, so you would. But anyway, summer slump obviously is like, I have trouble reading through summer for some reason. Couldn't tell you why. I only read like 3 books in like July, and all of those were rereads. So yeah, I think we should just get into it. The first book I read in September was Conventionally Yours by Annabeth Albert. This is about 2 boys, obviously, but it's a queer romance, I should say, who hate each other, but then they found themselves on this road trip to going to a card convention that they both really like, and they fall in love. It's marketed as enemies to lovers, but it's a contemporary romance, so it's not really enemies. They just don't like each other because they hadn't communicated properly. You know, the usual thing with contemporary enemies to lovers. Now, something I wanted to point out is, like, this it's fine, it's alright, but if you look in the book, you'll just get like this, which I'm pretty sure is the author's art, and this is so good. Like, why didn't she do the cover art for this? Because it's such a different thing. Oh, it also has a map of the US. That's fun. But yeah, I really liked this book, and reading it at September and like traveling road trip convention, seeing things got me really excited, because if you don't know, in January, Dan and Phil are doing their UK length of their tour, Terrible Influence, so it got me really excited for that, even though obviously it is in January. But I found this very cute. The romance was very cute. And considering the last book I read before this, the last book I read in August was an essays collection, which was obviously non-fiction. To get back into this a cute romance was very very nice. Did I tell you, I rated this 2.5 stars, and I really recommend it. The next book I read was Heatwave by T.J. Klune, which is the 3rd book in the Extraordinary series, and it is set in summer. I wasn't at college yet, so technically it was still summer, so I've been a little iffy with the Heatwave, with the Extraordinary series. I do think it gets better with each book, and this is the best one, but and I can't talk about it that much because obviously it's the 3rd in a trilogy, but basically there are superheroes and in this world, and not like in My Hero Academia one where 80% of the population, it's really sparse and only certain people have like powers and stuff, and Nick is in love. He has a celebrity crush on one of the heroes in the first book, and he attempts to become an extraordinary, which is what they call people with powers in this world. That's the plot of the first book, not what happens in this one, because obviously it's the 3rd one. But yeah, I think this is my favourite book, pardon me, in the trilogy, mainly due to the found family in this. Like, the friend group and, like, their parents are so sweet and it's comforting, and it doesn't involve a lot of Nick's fanfiction writing, which I read fanfiction. I'm not ashamed to admit that. I like fanfiction. It's great. It's a lovely hobby, creative writing, fantastic. But Nick is such a Wattpad writer, and I mean that in a derogatory sense. Like, there's nothing wrong with writing on Wattpad. I mean, considering a lot of people have gotten that published recently, that's probably mainly because the parent company of the Webtoon bought them out. But yeah, it's formatted like AO3, this fanfiction. And yeah, but I think one of the reasons this is my favourite thing is because of the epilogue, and it's so sweet. If you didn't like the first one, and I understand that it was very cringe-inducing, but I think it was still good. I made the mistake of reading the House on the Cerulean Sea first, which you probably shouldn't do, because I personally think, I mean, out of every book this person has read, that I have read by him, which is only 4 books, that The House on the Cerulean Sea is my favourite, and I will be getting the sequel at some point. Don't know when. Don't have any money at the moment. Well, pocket money. So, there's that. Yeah, I rated this 4.75, which I think this is my second ever favourite book by this author, and mainly because of the epilogue, and it was very sweet. The next book I read after that was We Contain Multitudes by Sarah Henstra. So this is about 2 boys, again, mostly what I read is queer romance, not gonna lie, and and this follows, I didn't say the names of the people in Conventionally Yours, so it follows Conrad and, what's his name, Alden, just so that you know, and obviously the main character in this is Nick. He follows his friend group of Jazz, Gibby, it's a nickname because her last name's Gibson, and Seth, which is their main friend group. Okay, and obviously this book is about Jonathan and Adam Kurlansky. So this one's Curl, this one is Joe, and it follows them doing a pen pal assignment, and they do it even after the pen pal assignment is technically over, and I really like that concept. Like, it's formatted as letters, and it's just like, yours sincerely, and it's set in 2015, 2016. Yeah, it starts in 2015 and then it ends in 2016, which I thought was a weird choice because this book was published in 2019, but for a reason which I won't divulge. It's not a spoiler because it happened in real life, but it's contributed to the plot, so I won't say what happens, but it makes sense. I loved the formatting. The writing was easy to read, which was good, and I finished this in like 3 or 4 days, but it wasn't that great. It had a trope in it which I did not like, and yeah, which I think lowered it for me, and which is why I'm probably going to unhaul this, which is sad to say, because it was really easy to read, but it was not great. And I rated this one 3.5. This probably would have been like a 4 or 4, but again, this one trope, this one thing that happens, and like one of the main things that is set in this, that's like integral to the plot that did happen in real life, kind of threw me out a bit because it's centered around one person who is basically idealized by this community, and he's he's a celebrity, but he's not a very nice person. He has been revealed not to be a very nice person. It does feel like these characters are idolizing him when they shouldn't be. But the next book I read after that was All That's Left in the World by Eric J. Brown, which I think this is his debut, but don't quote me on that. And it does have a sequel, but I don't have the sequel, I have not read it yet. This is set in a post-apocalypse where this thing called, in the distant nearest future, because they do mention COVID, but in the nearest future where, like, majority of the population has been wiped out by this thing called the super flu, which is not COVID, it's worse than COVID, and reading the symptoms of it, it sounds horrible. But yeah, basically these two boys find each other, and it's just them traveling around the thing. Overall, I wasn't amazingly impressed by this, I won't lie. It didn't really feel like there was, like, a lot of different things on into it. Like, there's a lot of, I guess, apocalypse tropes, I guess, and there were a lot of different themes and a lot of different characters that were introduced, and it just felt like there wasn't, like, a consistent thing. And, like, the last 100, 200 pages, it really picked up because they were in, like, a dangerous situation, and then from there they get a third character in, spoiler, and, like, that was really good, but it felt like it should have done that from the beginning. Like, it didn't feel like there was really a point for a lot of this book, and it just felt like they were wandering around, which I guess is how an apocalypse would think, but again, like, the last 200, 100 pages were really good, and because of that, I did rate it 4 stars. And I will probably, not anytime soon, probably next year, pick up the sequel. But yeah, I probably, so the characters are called Jamie and Andrew. Andrew has been, no, Jamie has been hunkered down since the beginning. No, since the beginning of basically the outbreak of the super flu, and has been hiding in, like, a cabin in the woods, and has been, like, absent from society. And then Jamie shows up on his doorstep, wounded, and it picks up from there. I thought they'd spend more time in the cabin than they did, and for, like, supposedly it took, like, a month, just over a month, for Jamie to recover from the injury. No, not Jamie, Andrew to recover from the injury he injured, and it didn't really feel like they spent enough time with the healing process of that. Like, I wanted more, like, them begrudgingly bonding and, like, being friends, but we didn't really get that at the beginning. So it didn't really feel like it was compelling for them to go off together, because I didn't really have a clear sense of their friendship, and it also just felt like they were desperate to be around each other because they were really lonely, not that they had a genuine connection for a little while. The next book I read was Will Grayson by John Green and David Leviathan. I'm going to say Leviathan, it's probably wrong. It'd be really cool if his name is actually Leviathan. Now, I haven't enjoyed a lot of John Green books in the past, I won't lie, which is probably sacrilegious. I know he's, like, a thing, but I just don't think his writing, like, books and stuff is for me. But you know what's a good thing is I rated this 3.5 stars, which I know doesn't sound like a high rating, but considering I've rated every single one of his books 3 stars, I mean John Green's books 3 stars, I think that's a really good thing. So obviously the main concept is 2 Will Graysons living completely different lives, different people, and each Will Grayson is written by a different author. Now, I wonder, one of the main reasons I enjoyed this was probably because it was also written by someone else, but it's set in Chicago, and Smiled to Myself and the Bean was mentioned, mainly for reasons, because I'm weird. Yeah, this it's good, all things considered, but and it is like my favorite, I think, John Green book, but I don't know if that's really a thing I can say because it wasn't written solely by him. But something funny that I'm just thinking of, well, not funny, is that when I bought this book, I bought it secondhand, from this person at a book fair that happens like sometimes in York. I bought it, and when I went to pay by card, it wasn't working because the Wi-Fi for the building was kind of shit. So the lady who was selling it tried to give it to me for free, which was really sweet, but I couldn't do it. Luckily, I had change on me for and it was only £3.50, so I could pay for it in change. But the next thing I read, for once again, which I think if you have watched the previous videos that I did this in, no surprise here, I did reread once again The Amazing Book Is Not on Fire by audiobook. And I know I was thinking about why do I bring this up every month, because I did read it this month, and I did enjoy it again, and I think I'll continue reading it over and over again once a month till the end of time. Well, my time anyway, till I can no longer read. But I did listen to it at audiobook, and if you aren't aware, every time I listen to an audiobook, well, not every time, a good majority of the time when I listen to an audiobook, I will sit down and I will also colour a different colour, because I enjoy colouring. And I have this colouring book, which is a superhero themed colouring book, and every time I colour, in this one specifically, I will colour superheroes as pride flags. And when I watched this, was this person here, which is Takashi Sijut, which is the boy flex flag. I use a random name generator for the name, which, yeah. I think this is probably my better, colouring so far as of recently, because I haven't been that great, mainly because it's been multiple flags, and I don't like doing multiple flags. I didn't leave his skin white, not colour his skin because I was being lazy. It's because he has albinoism. But yeah, that's what I did. The next book I read after Tabanoff was obviously Dapgo, which is their picture book, which I know a lot of people shit on this book because it is just a photo album with captions, but honestly I really love this book. Mainly one of the reasons I love it is because I wasn't there for Tatanoff when it was going on. And it makes me feel like I'm experiencing it, even though it is obviously not happening anymore. It does feel like I was a part of it when I wasn't, which I kind of like. So yeah, I have a special place for Dapgo, even if everyone else hates it. I love it. The next book I read after that was Winter's Orbit by Evanina Maxwell. I'm probably pronouncing her name wrong. And this is a space opera, which was the first time I've ever read a space opera. It's labelled as a sci-fi and a romance. I don't know I know that space opera is like a vision of sci-fi, I think. Don't quote me on that. And I don't know if every space opera has romance in it, but it probably does. But yeah, I really enjoyed this book, but I know a lot of people probably won't, because it is like heavy on politics and stuff. But it basically follows this prince, what's his name, Keem, and this count called Janan. Well, that's how I pronounce it. It's probably pronounced differently. And basically, Janan's husband, Keem's cousin, Tam, has just died in an accident. Well, he's died a month before. months before, and this is right before basically a galactic peace treaty is happening, and the only way to like make sure that the peace treaty still happens is that, and Jaden is the representative of a planet that the Emperor, Tam and Keem's grandmother, is like in charge of this system, right? And this peace treaty comes around, and they need the representative and the prince to like be alright with each other and be okay, right? So that the peace treaty can go forth. All the planets have like representatives, usually from the planet, besides one which is like overrun with like pirates and stuff, space pirates. Yeah. So basically, the Emperor tells Keem that he has to marry Janen so that the peace treaty thing isn't interrupted. And obviously Keem's like slightly hesitant about this because Janen's just lost his husband. And it's not great. But they go through with the marriage. It's slightly awkward because like Keem doesn't want to overstep his boundaries because obviously Janen just lost his partner, and so yeah. And then obviously this isn't a spoiler, it says this on the back, but then it's revealed that Tam's death is probably not actually an accident, and that Janen is a suspect in possibly like, you know, triggering the death or sabotaging the vehicle he was in. He died in basically a car crash, except it's not called a car crash because it's set in space. But yeah. So they need to figure out what's happening, and I really enjoyed this a lot. There is a lot of, I won't lie, miscommunication in this, but to be fair, it didn't bother me that much. Well, I mean, it did slightly, but in comparison to like other things, because it makes sense in retrospect why they would miscommunicate so much. So much because mainly, well, I can't really explain why because it is a spoiler, but basically. But when it was explained why they were miscommunication so much, it made sense. Like, I clocked it almost instantly from, like, the behaviour they had to each other. And I rated this 4.5 stars. And it is a series where I think it has a novella and then, like, a proper sequel, but I think it's, like, set, like, at least 20 years, I think, in the future, but don't quote me on that. But yeah, I loved this book. I loved the characters, and I found the world really intriguing. I don't think the politics were too, like, big to misunderstand. Like, I understood the politics to a point, probably. And, yeah. Then the next book I read after that, which I don't have with me because it was a library book, was 12 Bones by Rosie Tablet, which is the sequel to 16 Souls. And I won't lie, I didn't like 16 Souls a whole lot. And one of the main reasons I read it was because it is set in York, and which is where I'm from, where I live, and frankly, there's not a lot of books that are set in York. So, if you have any books that are set in York, please recommend them to me down below. I would very much appreciate it. I mean York, England, not like. I know there's at least one York in, like, Pennsylvania, apparently, and not New York. I know there's probably plenty of stories set in New York. But, I mean, York, England, Jorvik, Yorkshire, England. Okay, give me a second. Yes, this is a Pixel People's mug, and there's water in it, because I don't like hot drinks. But yeah, 12 Bones. And the main reason I got it as a library book is because I didn't know if I would have wanted it, and I don't think I can afford it as a book right now, but because I didn't enjoy 16 Souls that much. And you know what? 12 Bones was actually really intense, I won't lie, and it surprised me a lot. But I really enjoyed it. he enjoyed it, and I will be getting it at some point, like to own. But if you don't like 16 Souls, I'd say read 12 Bones because it is better. And I can't really go into too much detail, obviously, because it is the sequel. But the first book is about Charlie, and he can see ghosts basically, and then. And York, if you're unaware, he lives in York, and York, if you are unaware, is the most haunted city in Europe. That's not a thing for the book, that is just a thing in the world, in real life. If you believe in ghosts, if you don't, but basically this we have ghost tours. It is considered the most haunted city in Europe. And basically he's navigating seeing ghosts and dealing with that, and and then he meets another boy who can't remember the name of. Give me a second. Another boy, Sam, who can also see ghosts, and who, frankly, he doesn't really like at first. And basically, Sam asks Charlie to help him because ghosts have started to go missing, and they have to figure out what's going on there. It is a romance, and it is, I guess, technically a horror book, YA, but because there's ghosts in it. But it's not really that. Well, I didn't find it that scary, but I guess there is a bit of gore in it. So look up trigger warnings if you are reading it. And I rated 12 Bones 4.75, and when I originally rated 16 Bones 4, and I mainly did that because 16 Souls, not 16 Bones, 16, I mainly rated it a 4-star because because it was set in York. Not gonna lie, I don't know, and ratings are objective. I'm allowed to do that. There's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, I really enjoyed 12 Bones. It is very intense in comparison to the first book. I nearly cried multiple times, but I cry very easily, but hence the channel name Subsessions. But yeah, after I read 12 Bones, the next book I read was Hither Page by Cat Sebastian. Is this technically, and you might be saying, yeah, this looks slightly Christmassy, because it is technically a Christmas book, but I think it is a Christmas book in the same way that Die Hard is a Christmas movie, simply that it is set at Christmas. You could probably set this at any other time of the year and it would still make sense. I mean, if you asked me. And obviously you'd think this is a novella. It's not. It's a complete thing. There is a sequel, and it's about a small post-World War II small town where a possible murder has just taken place, and a secret agent, I presume Secret Service, whatever, intelligence service agent Leo Page is sent to it to basically go. Hi, sorry, don't know what happened there. My camera just stopped filming. But basically, what I was saying was, it's sent to discover if it was actually a murder, if there's foul play involved, and yeah. And he meets the town doctor, who is like traumatized from the war, who's called James, and they basically reluctantly team up and to try and solve what's happened. James is slightly hesitant to this because he mainly went to the country to get a. Yeah, sorry, I don't know why my camera keeps stop recording, but I probably should wrap this up. But basically, yeah, they're investigating, and it is a romance, and yeah. Obviously, it says a romance. And I rated this 3.75. It was cute, I guess, and I guess a little suspenseful, but obviously it's not very long, and I feel like it probably should have been longer. And it does have a sequel, though, so I probably will we'll look into getting that. Okay, so I gotta do this quickly because I don't know if my camera's gonna like stop starting recording. But the next thing I read, the last book I read this month, which I don't have with me because I've unhauled it literally yesterday, was a manga called Secret XX, which is about a guy who really likes bunnies, works in a bunny like specialist pet store, and but secretly is allergic to bunnies and is unloved with the grandson of the shop owner. I thought this would be a lot cuter than it was, in all honesty, and a lot more slow burn, but it wasn't. But it was very instantaneous, probably because it was a yaoi basically, and while I don't mind mindless smut, I wasn't in the mood for mindless smut. Though generally speaking, I'm not usually a mood reader. I just wasn't feeling it, which is probably one of the reasons why I unhauled it. And I rated it 3 stars. If you want like a cute, if you want, I guess it's semi-cute, it's by all means, I get it, but I wasn't that impressed. And yeah, that is all the books that I read in September. But yeah, that's basically it. I'm currently doing a reading blog basically. So I don't know when that'll come out, but yeah, that's basically everything. I never introduced myself. I'm Milo, and yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.